The carnivore diet is the only diet in the world where you do not have to count your calories and you'll still lose weight. And in today's video, I'm going to break down exactly why this is the case. But first, let me describe my story with counting calories, which I'm sure for many of you will sound like I'm describing your life. I was 14 years old at the time, and I discovered what I believe to be the greatest concept I've ever heard: counting calories. So wait, so you're telling me that I can eat whatever I want and still stay in fantastic shape? Which is exactly what I did. I went from being an overweight kid to quite possibly the most jacked 14-year-old mankind has ever seen. But there was one major problem, and little did I know this would undo months of hard work. As I was restricting the amount of calories I was consuming, I started to get very hungry, and this hunger was incredibly persistent. The only thing I could think about all day was food. When I was hanging out with people, all I'd be thinking about was my next meal. But that wasn't all. I also started to feel terrible. The minute I woke up in the morning, I was looking forward to going to bed again that evening. And as a result, I ate, and I gained back all of the weight I'd lost. I then repeated the cycle for the next 6 years. I'd diet down, feeling terrible and miserable the whole time. But then again, I'd get these insane cravings, insane levels of hunger, terrible energy, and I'd gain it all back. What is the point of all of this? I thought to myself. This is not maintainable. I feel terrible all the time. There must be a better solution. But then one day, I discovered the carnivore diet. Whenever I got hungry, I would eat steak and eggs. The next time I got hungry, I'd eat basically the same thing. I didn't track a single thing, but within only a couple of months, I had dropped 30 pounds. I was in incredible shape. I wasn't hungry once. My energy was through the roof. I had more energy than I'd ever had in my life, despite the fact that the pounds were just stripping away. Now think about the crazy contrast between these two diets. On one hand, always hungry, low energy, the weight would come down slow. As a whole, I just felt garbage. Whereas on the other hand, whenever I got hungry, I'd eat. I had incredible energy, and the weight was coming down effortlessly. But let's get to the theory of all of this. So how do you even lose fat? Well, let's really break this down. A calorie is a word I'm sure you've heard many times in your life. But what even is a calorie? A calorie is a measurement of energy. Just like you'd measure distance or length in centimeters or meters, you can measure energy by calories. Now, body fat is literally just stored energy. In everything we eat, there is energy in different amounts. Excess energy that we consume, which is not burnt, is stored as body fat. But when you burn more energy than you consume, your body then taps into its own fat and uses that for energy, which consequently means you lose body fat and you get leaner. Now, this right here, in theory, is very simple. This is what your local personal trainer will tell you. This is what your favorite influencer, who happens to sell supplements, will tell you. And this is definitely what the big food companies like to push. But this right here, it all unravels. I want you to imagine two scenarios. Now, in both of these scenarios, you are consuming the same amount of energy. However, in scenario 1, you are burning a very small amount of energy, whereas in scenario 2, you are burning considerably more than you're consuming. Imagine if there was a diet that could put you into scenario 2. You could still eat the same amount of food, but you'd burn a lot more energy and therefore lose a lot more fat. Well, is that even possible? When you're on a regular diet where you count your calories, you are consuming lots of food that is inflammatory to you. Now, what happens when you are chronically inflamed? Well, every single cell in your body does not function properly. Now, what happens here is the mitochondria, which is the part of the cell that produces our energy, becomes less effective at creating energy. This is why most people just have no energy. They speak with no enthusiasm. Everything they do it with low energy. I know dudes who are 21 who don't work out because they don't have the energy for it. They spend their entire lives sitting at computers putting numbers into Excel spreadsheets. Back in the day, we had issues because everyone had too much energy. Large groups of dudes would get together and go, man, I'm bored. We gotta do something. And they'll just go invade the next village over. No particular reason other than the fact that they had too much energy. And you know why? Because they were eating the proper human diet. When you eat a carnivore diet and you're not having these plant toxins and, well, all the chemicals that are in the ultra-processed food, every cell in your body heals. Now, guess what happens when these cells heal and they function better? You produce a lot more energy. Talk to any person who's ever done the carnivore diet. They will tell you the same thing. Within days, I had way more energy. Okay, so what happens when you have more energy? Well, you talk with more energy. You move your hands as you talk. You're much more likely to spontaneously decide to clean the house or clean your car. I personally find myself pacing up and down without even realizing it. I'll be at the gym in between sets, and instead of sitting down, I'm pacing up and down like, I don't know, some sort of animal. Now, I'm sure I look like a complete weirdo, but when you add all this extra energy up, it makes a significant difference. This right here is called NEAT. It stands for Non-Exercise Activity Thermogenesis. The craziest part about all of this is that in studies, they have found that NEAT can differ individual to individual by as much as 2,000 calories. For an individual my size, I'm a relatively big dude, I would have to run a half marathon to burn that many calories. Think about how crazy that is. Okay, so now you have two diets where you've both consumed the same amount of energy, but on one diet, the energy output is significantly higher. But that's not all. The main reason that diets do not work is because of something called appetite. I, for one, have experienced this, and I'm sure you have too. When you're on a regular diet and you're eating all kinds of foods, your appetite is through the roof. I mean, that thing's in orbit. However, on carnivore, you don't get hungry. Genuinely, you won't believe the difference it makes. I was someone, like I talked about at the start, every 3 hours I would be starving. I'd spend my days thinking about food. But I remember one time, after I'd been on carnivore for a while, I was thinking to myself, you know what? I never get hungry. Let me put this to the test. It took me 2.5 days before I ate another meal. And the only reason I did it was because I was bored. I wasn't even hungry. Now, there are three main reasons for this, which I'm going to break down. The first is that you become something known as fat adapted. Now, to put this very simply, when you consume carbohydrates, your body's primary fuel source is carbohydrates. And when you run out of the carbohydrates that you've consumed, your body's not very effective at tapping into its own body fat because they have very different structures. However, on a carnivore diet, your primary fuel source is fat. Now, when you've run out of the fat you've consumed, your body is effective at tapping into its own body fat because they have very similar structures. Now, I know it sounds like I've just completely made this up, but I promise you it is a real scientific thing. When you eat fats and proteins, your blood sugar levels stay relatively stable. But when you consume carbohydrates, in particular simple carbohydrates, things like bread, pasta, etc., you get massive blood sugar spikes. But here's the thing, they come crashing back down, but it doesn't stop at its baseline level. It goes below that. Now, when your blood sugar is below its baseline level, your body thinks, oh my goodness, we've run out of fat. You get ridiculously hungry. You have no energy. This is why come 10 a.m. after you've had, cereal or toast for breakfast, all you can do is think about food. Now, to make these blood sugar spikes even worse, whenever your blood sugar spikes, another hormone known as insulin also elevates to bring your blood sugar levels back down. But here's the thing with insulin. As insulin elevates, it blocks another hormone known as leptin. Now, leptin is what says to your brain, hey, we're full, we can stop eating, we don't need to eat anymore. Now, to get even nerdier, what happens to some people who eat lots of these inflammatory foods is that they become what is known as insulin resistant. Now, this essentially means that the cells in your body stop responding effectively to insulin. So in order to do the same job and bring your blood sugar back down, you must produce a lot more of it. Now remember, insulin blocks the hormone that says to our brain we're full. So on a regular diet, you're in this vicious cycle where you're hungry all day. Your body can't tap into its own fat. All your hunger hormones are jacked right up. It's virtually impossible to lose weight. That's why you watch any of these bodybuilders, any of these fitness influencers make a video where they're discussing how they get in shape. They talk about suffering the whole time. Yeah, I feel terrible, but when I get that gold medal on stage, it's all going to be worth it. Now, if this is your job, fair play. But for the average person, who has to perform at their job, who has to be in a good mood so their wife's in a good mood, it becomes incredibly hard to live like this, which is why most people can never get in shape. So let's look at this. On carnivore, even if we eat the same amount of calories, our caloric output is much higher, meaning we burn a lot more calories. Which remember, calories are energy and body fat stored energy. So when we're burning more calories, we're burning more body fat, as well as the fact that you have this appetite regulation. You never get hungry. You're fat adapted, remember? As soon as you run out of what you've eaten, your body just taps into its own fat. If you're going to remember one thing from this video, please remember this. The type of calories in has a massive effect on the calories out. The craziest thing about all of this is that calories are a psyop. All everyone cares about nowadays is calories. When someone picks up something from the supermarket, they flip it around, look at the back. The only thing they're looking at is the calories. And you know what lurks to the side in the shadows? Actually, no, that makes it sound kind of cool. Ignore that part. My point being is that no one looks at the ingredients. So they put all these cheap garbage ingredients in there. And people look at it and go, oh, low calories. Oh my goodness. That means I'm not going to get fat. But what ends up happening is you're hungry all day, so you're addicted to their food, you have no energy, and your life just turns to, I don't even know, it's just terrible. and the masses flock to it. They're grateful for this. Oh my goodness, did you see the new Coca-Cola Oreos? Oh my goodness, and they also made Oreo flavored Coke. And by the way, I'm not even making this up. I literally went to my local supermarket the other day and they had this there. The big food companies, they make this wonderful trade deal with you where they make lots of money and you get chronic diseases. But I mean, the food tastes a bit nummy. I'm sure all of their executives are sitting there. $3 million profit this week. Jimmy, that idea for you to make the Coca-Cola Oreos, oh my goodness, it was genius. And Jimmy's sitting there like, yeah, man, I know, our bonuses, they're going to look brilliant. But to be fair, the Oreo Coke, that was your idea, mate. These people are laughing at us. All everyone does is look at the amount of calories and things when there is a very simple solution. Look at a picture at a beach before we started mass consuming carbohydrates and these refined seed oils. Find me a fat person. These people, they don't know what a calorie was. Look at this man from the year 1890. He was the fattest man in the world. He was in circus, labeled a freak show. People would pay money to come and see this fat boy. Nowadays, if you walk past that man in the supermarket, he's one of the in-shape ones. Unless you are a professional bodybuilder who needs to get up on stage with striated glutes, there is no need to count calories. Go on the carnivore diet. Let your metabolism upregulate. Let your appetite downregulate to where it's meant to be. And you will find that you can go about your life, you can feel good, you can have great energy, and still look amazing. Now, if you've watched this video and thought to yourself, you know what, that kid has a terrible haircut, but what he's saying, it does make sense. I want to start this all meat thing. Then I highly recommend you check out this video. It's a complete beginner's guide. It breaks down everything you need to know to start. Subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. I'll see you guys next time.